Okay, question 1. Courtney went to a coffee shop to purchase lattes and donuts for her friends. One day, she spent a total of $15.50 on 4 lattes and 2 donuts. The next day, she spent a total of $18.10 on 3 lattes and 5 donuts. All prices include tax. If X represents the cost of 1 latte and Y represents the cost of 1 donut, write a system of equations that can be used to model this situation. So first, let's annotate all our x's. So x represents lattes. So the first time we had 4 lattes, the second time we had 3. Now let's annotate all our y's. So the first day we had 2 donuts. The second day we had 5 donuts, and y represents the number of donuts. So finally, the last thing to do is just look at the money. And I know many of you are saying, well, this is a lot of extra. This seems like more work, but this is working smarter, not harder. If we're systematic, we know exactly what equations to write, and this gives us our starting point. So now I can say 4 lattes, 4x, plus 2 donuts, plus 2y equals 1550. That's our first equation. Now for our second equation, it says that 3x, 3 lattes, plus 5y equals 1810. That's our second equation. So now we're well out of the gate, actually writing our system of equations, and we can move on to the next step. Courtney thinks that 1 latte costs $2.75 and a donut costs $2.25. Is Courtney correct? Justify your answer. So I want to use the graphing calculator to substitute these values in. So the first thing I'm going to do is store them in my calculator. 275 store x, 225 store y. And now we can open our TI Nspire graphing calculator. So from a calculator page, we're just going to type 275. Now the store command, control followed by the VAR key. And that's how we store X. Press enter, it's stored. Do the same thing for Y. So control var key for store and Y. Now, those two values are stored. I can write my equations in my calculator. So my first equation, when I press enter, the calculator says, yes, you're right. So now I'll put the second one in. So my second equation is false. So now I can go and answer the question about what Courtney thought. So since I did this work in my graphing calculator, I want to record what I put in my calculator to verify that Courtney is incorrect. And the first thing I want to say is no. If we don't answer the question they ask, we don't get credit for our work. So our justification is one of them is false and they both must be true to make the system true. So now I have 4 points. I got credit for my 2 equations. I got credit for saying no and justifying it. Now I'm going to use my system to find the cost of a latte and a donut. So I have my 2 equations. What I know is I have to get rid of either x or y. I can't solve a system algebraically for both variables at a time. So I'm looking at these x's, and I know if I multiply them by each other, if I multiply the 4 by the 3, I get 12. If I multiply the 3 by the 4, I get 12. So that's what I'm thinking is, let's get rid of an x. But the problem is, if I get them both to 12, they don't go away. So I'm negating this 3 so that the 12 and negative 12 will be opposites. That's how I eliminate one of my variables. So when I distribute that negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Negative 3 times 1550 is negative 4650. Now I can do the same thing by distributing 4 to the next equation. So 4 times 3 is positive 12. 4 times 5y is plus 20y. And 4 times 1810 is $72.40. Now I can bring in my CLT line and combine like terms. And notice what my goal was happened. Negative 12x and 12x cancel each other out, and I get 14y is 2590. So to find y, we just divide both sides by 14, and we get that y is 1.85. What does y represent? Hopefully somebody said donuts. So a donut costs $1.85. Now, if I know the price of a donut, I can take either equation and plug that in. So right here, I have a 2y. So I'm going to use that equation, and instead of writing y, I write $1.85. Multiply that by 2, I get 370. Now I need to subtract 3.7 from both sides, and I get 4x equals $11.80. When I divide both sides by 4, the price of a latte is $2.95. Now, this is obviously an awful lot of work, but it's also a 6-point question. So the bang is in the buck. You get paid a lot when you answer all 6 points here. I will take a moment and show you how to get at least 5. Let's go back to our graphing calculator. Now, if we did everything else to write our system of equations, but we struggle with the algebra, add a calculator and do menu 3, solve systems of linear equations. So it should be menu 3, 2. Now just type in our 2 equations. So we're doing linsolve, we're typing our 2 equations in, and then we press enter. X is the cost of a latte, Y is the cost of a donut. So remember, linsolve, menu 3, 2. This is a way, if you have your system of equations, to guarantee as long as you put this on your paper to show your work, you've still demonstrated how you got your $2.95 and $1.85, and that gets you 5 of your 6 points if you did everything else. And that's our answer to question number 1.